How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here in another video. So, of course, it's time for another Detroit Lions NFL draft preview. So, in the last draft preview, we took a look at the top day 3 running backs for rounds 4 through 7 of the 2022 NFL draft. And in this one, we're going to take a look at the 2022 wide receiver class for rounds 4 through 7 and wrap the wide receiver class up. So, we're going to go through the best wide receiver prospects for rounds 4 through 7 of the 2022 NFL draft and see which names the Lions should take a look at. So, yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's go. So, the first receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of Michigan State, standing 6 feet tall, weighing 192 pounds, we got Jaylen Naylor. So, for Jaylen's strengths, he's the biggest draw for NFL eyes with speed. He has a quality frame, too, should have early success deep. Michigan State's offense, it was a bit limited in attacking downfield, but he overcame that with production on manufactured touches and improving his route tree in the short game. He can take the top off of a defense, and he can open up opportunities underneath. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he is rather green in terms of overall polish, and he struggles to deal with contact. He needs to do a better job positioning himself for the ball. While he does have flashes, there needs to be more consistency out of him from snap to snap in order to carve out a full-time professional role. He could also get bummed down and stalked due to consistent nagging issues that caused him to miss games throughout his career. So yeah, that may need to take a look at. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired wide receiver Chris Givens. So yeah, he has a lot of potential, a lot of things to like for sure. A couple things he needs to clean up and need to be more consistent, but still someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of South Alabama, standing 6'3", weighing 195 pounds. We got Jaylen Tolbert. So for Jaylen's strengths, has a prototype split end build with above average size and good definition. He plays bigger with good strength and determination to run through jams and win at the catch point. He uses timing, his core power, and his strong hands to win above the rim. He's sneaky downfield, speed that will go over the top. He has crafty hesitation and footwork to create late separation. He has smooth accelerator with winnable deep straight line speed. He's an intriguing yards after catch ability for a big receiver, demonstrates vision, coverage, and balance through contact. He has at least adequate agility and acceleration. He dominated against lower level competition for much of his college career, but he did hold his own in South Alabama's game against Tennessee last season. And he had a very strong showing and didn't look out of place at the Senior Bowl this year, so he'll definitely be on the Lions' radar without a doubt. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's a single-speed runner with no explosive element. He shows reasonable quickness off the line to eat up cushion against off-man coverage, but he doesn't show much sudden snap to his breaks. He uses big frame and strength to catch passes with defenders closing. He's smooth but not sudden acceleration. He won't scare too many NFL corners with his vertical game. He had too many droughts and concentration issues, which were evident when he was clearly attempting to make a move to elude defenders before securing the ball fully. He isn't the most consistent presence his frame may suggest as a blocker, and in 2017 he did suffer a season-ending knee injury, but other than that, though, he stayed very healthy for much of his college career and been very productive still, so that injury may not bug him too much. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to N'Keal Harry of the New England Patriots, so a lot of upside for sure, but going to have to clean up a few things to really make a career. But yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure, especially going deep. Alright, so the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of Oregon, standing 6'5", weighing 207 pounds, we got Devonte Williams. So for Devon's strengths, he has excellent vertical leap, which will allow him to rack up sky miles. He has remarkable catch radius, long strides, allows him to build good speed nicely in space. His hands are trustworthy, he's good for following blockers and maximizing space as a runner. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's slender, doesn't have ideal physical playing strength. Too easily he's blown off course by physicality. His releases are usually predictable in one speed. He doesn't have the ideal strength and focus as a blocker. He lacks breakout bursts after the catch. His linear style makes it harder for him to win after a catch. His route tree's complexity isn't ideal. He struggles to stop and restart quickly along his routes, and he has a limited salesmanship. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now free agent wide receiver Etsukonma St. Brown, who is the younger brother of Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh, by the way, Lions, he's still looking at receiver in free agency. Amon-Ra's younger brother is still available if you're interested. But yeah, still under that, though, Davon, he has a lot of upside for sure. A couple things he's going to have to clean up, but someone definitely consider and keep an eye on for sure. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out Texas Tech, standing 6'2", weighing 220 pounds. We got Eric Etsukonma. That last name's a bit of a tongue twister. But anyway, to Eric's strengths, he's a reliable hands catcher, won't let throws into his chest. He's versatile and experienced working both in the slot and outside, so he can work anywhere on the receiving line. His catch radius is excellent. He's a solid build-up speed for his size to break off big plays. He's solid, strong runner after the catches. Downfield ball tracking is NFL caliber. He's able to adjust and reposition for jump balls when his defenders are pushing. He also dominated Houston's Marcus Jones on the deep ball, if you want to watch some tape there from Texas Tech's game against Houston. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his route tree at Texas Tech, it was a bit gimmicky, and he will need time to adapt to the NFL level. His lateral agility is mediocre at best and could cause issues against press coverage. His burst in and out of route breaks won't shock defenders. He's too upright out of his stance. His play speed fluctuates badly, so he's got to learn to play more consistent and clean a few things up. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Mac Hollins and the Miami Dolphins, so has a lot of upside, but a lot of things he's got to clean up and get better at. But yeah, definitely maybe someone to consider in the long run. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of SMU, standing 6 feet tall, weighing 190 pounds. We got Danny Gray. So for Danny's strengths, he's an easy strider, explosive coming out of his stance. He eats through cushion quickly and makes corners work overtime to stay in control. His hand-eye coordination is adequate for adjusting to off-target passes. He's a hands catcher, frames the ball well, smart with his body language, won't tip off defenders. He's a good deep threat that can track and adjust for poorly thrown passes. His agility is going to catch defensive backs by surprise. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his size is below average for an NFL receiver. He'll likely have a hard time adding weight. He doesn't lack effort after the catch, but he isn't big or strong enough to create through contact. Too easily he's knocked off his route due to strength limitations, and he struggles to win in contested situations. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to John Hightower of the Philadelphia Eagles, so a lot of things to like, very fast, very strong, and, he also did get an invite to the Senior Bowl this year, too, so there's that, too, so he'll have some good eyes on there on the board. But, yeah, he'll definitely be on the board for sure. A couple things to clean up, but, yeah, someone definitely to keep an eye on for sure. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of Kentucky, standing 5'8", weighing 177 pounds, we got Juan Robinson. So for Juan strengths, his initial burst is impressive. He pulls away in a hurry. He's an engaged blocker. He'll find work for himself in the run game. He can make sharp changes of direction and gear down at a nice clip. He has experience as a returner, and will be valued for special teams upside. So, yeah, you could definitely value him for special teams for punt and kick returns. So, yeah, he offers some versatility there. He tracks the ball well downfield, won't lose concentration. He's a slippery open field runner, can make precise cuts with the ball in his hands. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's an incredibly undersized player with a small frame. Doesn't sustain elite speed, though, which is concerning given his size issues. He's a pure slot receiver only at the next level, which will get beaten up by the NFL tacklers. He struggles to win the ball in contested situations. His length is concerning even by small receiver standards. His body catching tendencies will lead to dropping catchable passes and struggling at the catch point. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired wide receiver Ace Sanders. So he has a lot of upside for sure, but very limited, including his size, though. Might be only limited to slot at best. But, still, he could produce a solid career, be someone to consider for special teams for sure. For kick and punt returns. So, yeah, definitely could be considered for special teams, especially if he falls later on the rounds. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of SMU, standing 5'11", weighing 200 pounds, we got Reggie Robinson Jr. So for Reggie, he's a prototype intangibles wide receiver. So in terms of his strengths, he's a controlled and technically refined with his release package. He's geared up and ready to go at all times in the run game. He's a downfield block and is going to set up some big plays. He has natural ball skills, which allows him to win in both contested and uncontested situations. His dynamic hand and foot quickness when he sets up his release and trying to break through press coverage. He's a slippery runner, can make reckless tacklers miss in the open field, and he's quick to hit his stride post-catch. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he must prove his athleticism is back to pre-injury levels. Since he did suffer a couple back-to-back seasons that were cut short by injuries, which may hinder his stock value, but he did have a bounce-back season in 2021. His size, it may lead to primary assignment as a slot receiver, so that could limit him to only one role in the NFL. His change of direction is only average. He has significant medical concerns that could worry teams regarding his shelf life. So, like I said, that injury history is a bit of a red flag. And his catch radius won't allow him to dominate opponents in the air. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Tylan Wallace of the Baltimore Ravens. So, a lot of upside for sure. A lot of dynamic speed that you would like to see. Couple things to clean up, and then that health history. Can he stay healthy and get back to what he was before he had those injuries? But yeah, still, maybe someone to definitely roll the dice with for sure. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of Ole Miss, standing 6'1", weighing 220 pounds, we got Dontario Drummond. So for Dontario's strengths, he's a big body receiver that has an NFL-ready frame and a strong base of thighs, more typical of a running back. He flashes intriguing speed and body control, accelerates smoothly downfield, and shows leaping ability and balance after the catch to elude tacklers or drive through arm tackles. He has the frame to post up and win above the rim. He uses his big body to shield defenders from the ball, has big reliable mitts to stretch passes out of the air. He shows impressive hand strength to pull in passes, barely touches fingertips. If you want a good example of that, watch Ole Miss's game against Louisville in 2021 if you want to watch some tape there. Has good body control and awareness of the sidelines and markers to get his feet in bounds. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's not a physical tone setter. He has only adequate straight line speed, steadily accelerating downfield for deeper routes, but lacks immediate burst. He trucks out of his stance with limited first step explosion off the line and on lateral breaks. He route lack precision. He relies on his frame and the scheme from Kiffin in college to shield defenders from the ball. His tendency to telegraph attention and stop routes on the play is away from him. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to David Moore, the Green Bay Packers, so has a lot of upside for sure, but going to need to get more consistent and clean up a few things. But yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Mississippi State, standing 6'2", weighing 200 pounds, we got Makai Polk. So for Makai's strengths, he has a long frame, allows him to cover ground very quickly, get into the cuts of his routes with ease. He also adjusts well for the catch, turns his hips to make up for a poor throw, or the effort to cut back and crash into the ground if the ball is low. He has reliable hands all season, showed consistent ability to bring the ball in all aspects of the field, and he judged it well and make the grab. In terms of his weaknesses, he leech offenses tends to be favorable to wide receiver production totals, and he is another example of that. And for Mississippi State, he's against stronger talents. He struggled to create any separation in his route running. While he has the size, he'll still struggle at physicality, which leaves his role at the next level in question. And as an athlete, he's a bit stiff and limits his ability to create after the catch. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Chris Moore of the Houston Texans, so has a lot of upside for sure. A couple things, though, that he has to clean up and get better at, and needs to get a little bit better athletically. But yeah, still, someone definitely to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Notre Dame, standing 6'2", weighing 215 pounds, we got Kevin Austin Jr. So for Kevin's strengths, he has an impressive frame with nice bursts into his routes to create separation. Also has impressive physicality when it comes to handling contact in the routes. At the catch point, has nice size. Catch radius, can get up and high point the football. Results in highlight reel catches throughout his time at Notre Dame. With his size, though, he can get downfield well. He won't fall under the burner category, but a size-speed combo should cause issues for defensive backs. And he is listed as one of the top sleeper picks in this draft because even though he was a one-year wonder for the Fighting Irish, his ability, though, to win in contested situations and attack defenses vertically could intrigue teams, though, as a mid-round pick in the mid-rounds. So he could maybe go a little higher, maybe. We'll see. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he struggles when it comes to overall polish, and that's where there could be issues for his transition to the NFL. While his size is nice, he will need to do a better job positioning himself for the football. When it comes to plucking passes, though, he could do it vertically, but his adjustments outside of his frame could leave much to be desired. His medicals could also be a major concern because he did miss a large portion of 2020 due to some injuries. So, yeah, that could be a bit of a red flag, but he rebounded nicely to have a solid season, though, last year. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired wide receiver Josh Morgan. So, has a lot of upside, has a lot of things that you would like in a receiver. Couple things he's got to clean up on. And, can he stay healthy? That's going to be the big question for sure. But, yeah, definitely someone I would take a gamble with for sure. So, the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of West Michigan, standing 5'9", weighing 195 pounds. We got Sky Moore. So, for Sky strengths, he's a human highlight reel for the West Michigan Broncos this season. Had 3 games of over 150 yards receiving. He shows solid release and toughness that should project well for his ability to win at the slot role in the NFL. He also showcases quality hands and playing IQ to find gaps in the defense. He adjusts his routes on the fly to play in the benefit of his QB in a way that should translate to the next level. In terms of his weaknesses, though, well, with a smaller frame, he will have to overcome plenty in order to find success in the NFL. His current size will likely limit him to the slot, and his lack of athleticism limits him to a deep backup or special teams role. So there is some versatility there, despite what he lacks. He did run into 4.5s for the 40 time, and that size limits his ability to win deep, and there were too many times he was outshined on his own team at West Michigan. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to free agent wide receiver DJ Foster, so he has a lot of upside for sure, but a lot of physical limitations given that he's a bit undersized, but definitely could be someone to consider for special teams for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Memphis, standing 5'6", weighing 160 pounds, we got Calvin Austin. So for Calvin's strengths, he has legitimate track speed in the open field. Twitchy lower half allows him to make instant adjustments. He won't back down against bigger opponents. His acceleration is phenomenal. His value and experience as a returner could help him walk a lock roster spot, so he has special teams versatility to offer too. He has comfortable tracking and adjusting the passes coming in over his shoulder with good hand-eye coordination. He's able to scoop tough passes away from the turf, and his hands are consistent when uncontested. And he is one of the faster players in this draft class. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's one of the smallest receivers in the last decade, and the size gap going to the NFL is going to hurt a lot. He looks a lot like a high schooler, though, and his size will make him a non-factor as a blocker. His toughness after the catch doesn't translate to the NFL. He'll strictly be limited to just a slot receiver at the NFL level. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jakeem Grant of the Chicago Bears, so has a lot of great speed, a lot of things to like in a receiver, but very undersized. And he'll be just limited to either slot receiver but he could be considered a good option for special teams. So definitely someone to consider for like a special teamer for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Tennessee, standing 5'11", weighing 200 pounds, we got Felix Jones Jr. So for Felix' strengths, he's sharp with his route breaks. He has decent elusiveness after the catch. His athleticism will make him valuable enough for the side touches like sweeps and screen plays. He's an easy accelerator who can thread defensive backs vertically. He's willing to lower the pads for tough yards. He has incredible career production as a kick returner, so he offers versatility on special teams as well. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his routes aren't polished or precise yet, but could be in the future. His technique and timing as a catcher isn't consistent and will lead to occasional drops, so he's got to be a bit more consistent there. He's not a particularly impactful blocker, though his effort is fine at that. His play strength and ability to break contact is modest. He doesn't shine working over the middle of the field, and too often he shines from tough patches, and his catch radius is average at best. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to free agent wide receiver Stacy Coley. So he has a lot of upside for sure, a lot of things to like in a receiver. A couple things so he's got to get better and clean up on, though. But definitely could be someone to consider for special teams, for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Virginia Tech, standing 6'1", weighing 182 pounds, we got Trey Turner. So for Trey strikes, he's able to elevate and win above the rim. His hand usage is polished and efficient when he works his releases. He's a willing blocker, can get engaged and play to the whistle. He gets sharply in and out of route breaks and has impressive short area agility. He adjusts well to poorly thrown balls, and he won't lose his cool at the edge of his catch radius. And oh, by the way, he's also the brother of former NBA first-round pick P.J. Hairston. So athleticism does run deep in his family. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his average play strength and slender physical profile make it hard for him to win through contact. He's not as dynamic as a runner and won't warrant design touches. His size could limit him to primary usage as a slot receiver in the NFL, and he doesn't do enough to make himself available as a target when he plays downfield. He's not a viable deep threat and struggles to trend with vertical speed. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Tyler Vaughns of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so a lot of things to like for sure, though, but a lot of things that could limit him to just one role, but still, someone maybe to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Clemson, standing 6'4", weighing 210 pounds, we got Justin Ross. So for Justin's strengths, he's enormous with a nice frame for working outside. Natural ball tracker, can adjust the passes without any trouble. He uses catch radius effectively when wins outside of his frame. He uses length well as a blocker. He's smart with his hand usage and body language. Is technically sound route runner, can play with good timing. His best flashes as a downfield ball tracker are worth getting excited about. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he moves like he's running in mud. Doesn't have the NFL burst and separation ability for NFL standards. His size is only a notable weapon after the catch. He gradually cuts and route breaks aren't going to shake defenders. His athleticism seemed to pick up later in the season, but it's not very consistent. He wasn't impressive at the catch point in 2021 as his underclassman type. His physicality as a blocker doesn't match his build, and he was inconsistent with positioning downfield. And he is listed as a player that could disappoint in the NFL because even though he is still riding away from his dominant freshman season, he's been heavily plagued throughout his college career by injuries and a lot of inconsistencies. So he's had a bit of some health issues, and he's been very inconsistent with his playing ability. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to free agent wide receiver Sage Surratt, so has a lot of things to like, has the size he would like for sure, but he's very inconsistent, and he needs to stay healthy. That's going to be the big thing. He's definitely a boomer bust type player. So yeah, definitely someone that would be maybe worth rolling the dice on. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of UCLA, standing 5'11", weighing 191 pounds, we got Kyle Phillips. So for Kyle's strengths, his overall athleticism may have some question marks, but the wide out from UCLA, he showed nice stiffness, shiftiness in his route running to offer confidence in his ability to separate. As a full-time starter for UCLA, he's been a top contributor for 2 of those 3 seasons, and what will capture the eyes of scouts is how often he was a safety blanket in UCLA's passing game when they needed a reliable weapon to get the yardage to move the sticks. He was always often the first read and consistently came through in the clutch. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his size means he will likely be restricted to just slot receiver duties, which makes the road from late-round draft pick that much harder and could potentially go undrafted. There's also some limitations after the catch that could hurt his chances of seeing the field in more than a rotational role until he's polished enough for the NFL game, so he could just be like a rotational situation guy. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired wide receiver Jackson Shipley. So has some upside for sure, a lot of things to like for sure. Someone that you can count and rely on to move the chains. Just a few physical limitations that are just going to limit him maybe. But yeah, maybe someone to consider for like a situation receiver or maybe even a special teamer. And the final receiver, the final player we're going to go over in this video, hailing out of Alabama, standing 5'11", weighing 195 pounds, we got Slade Bolden. So for Slade's strengths, he showed consistent ability to step up at the big stage for the Crimson Tide. He's a tough receiver with safe hands for the next level, easy to scoff at cliche levels. He absolutely fits the scrappy title for his ability to work over the middle and in traffic. Aside from those traits, though, he has consistently had a good relationship with his QBs at Alabama, which is a very promising sign for a quality teammate and locker room presence. So someone you can definitely rely on to have some leadership in the locker room. So definitely a good fit for Dan Campbell's culture for leader of men. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his season production was a little bit flat for Alabama, while he never stepped up as the main target for his team, though. And that's going to be really hard to ask for someone consistently lining up with early round talents. He wasn't really the main target, especially on a team that had John Mechie and Jameson Williams, who are expected to go very hot early in the draft. He does have some limits to his overall athletic profile and a frame that will likely make him a slot-only wideout that will need to make a name on special teams to stick on a roster, so he might need to cut it on the special teams. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to free agent wide receiver Trey Quinn, so has a lot of upside for sure, a lot of traits to like for sure. Could be limited to either wideout, at either slot receiver, or even on special teams as a punter or kick returner, but yeah, definitely the quality, being a very quality teammate and a good locker room leader, that's definitely going to be a lot of check marks that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are going to be looking at for the culture they're trying to build. So yeah, definitely someone to consider, not only for special teams, but also for culture fit too. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here for this Detroit Lions NFL draft preview. So yeah, definitely a lot of names to consider for sure for receivers, not only just, receivers that could be late round steals, but definitely some players that could help out the Lions and special teams for sure. Because it never hurts to have an extra kicker, punt returner or two. But yeah, definitely some interesting names to keep an eye on for sure for the Lions in the late rounds. Since, keep in mind, rounds 4 through 7, this was where we found Amon-Ra St. Brown in the draft last year. And look how he turned out last year, especially the second half of the year when he really turned it up. So yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a good example that you can find any talent in the draft, anywhere in the draft, as long as you know how to do your homework and do all that stuff. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here. And the next draft preview, we're going to take a look at the top day 3 tight end prospects. So yeah, you got that to look forward to in the next preview. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see you on whatever I make next. Peace.